Yet, I think the fact that we ensured that something was out there in the internet cyberspace, it wound up serving as an attractor for a lot of folks who then said, oh my gosh, there's nothing out there, and here's something coming out of a university that's about this phenomenon. And so suddenly we started to hear from a lot of folks, from, as I said, youth and parents, and also some folks who had been working in these programs and said, oh my gosh, it's something that I was really distressed by in working in this facility, and I haven't found a way to connect with folks who understand what's going on. And so we were suddenly hearing, and the other thing I guess I would say is attorneys who were trying to find some evidence base to begin making cases for some of the few families who were sort of coming out in the open and calling programs on this. So what we decided to do at that point back in 2005 was, okay, well, what if we come together? And Bob Friedman, if you have a chance to ever meet or work with him, he's a phenomenal sort of cross-disciplinary collaborator, and recognizes that, for instance, in children's mental health, that it's the power of our diversity as folks who care about and know something about kids and families and what's helpful, including kids and families most centrally, that this is how we might be able to affect change in the world. And so he had identified both a small group of individuals who he thought might have some some assets to contribute, and then also different organizations that came together, including professional organizations of psychologists and psychiatrists in the Child Welfare League of America, and NAMI, some other advocacy groups, and the Bazelon Center for Mental Health Law, which was in D.C. And so we partnered with this group and said, well, what if we at least have a press briefing? We go to Washington and we begin to raise awareness as best we can. And so again, really at this point only with what we'd read in the papers, and then these accounts that we were beginning to hear from people who were contacting us, we put together a press briefing where a youth spoke of her experience, a parent spoke of his experience, a former employee spoke of her experience, a child psychiatrist spoke of his experience, and an attorney spoke of her perspective. And then we advocated for the need to consider legislation that would at least put some regs in place. And it wasn't that we were proposing it, we were resonating with some legislation that George Miller, a congressman out in California, had been advocating for some time. Because as you'll see when I describe what we learned through an online survey, California winds up being a state that sends many youth to these kinds of facilities, and so it was something that he was concerned about with his constituents. So